Hello, I am Sarah Weiss with Go Yoga for Kids, and thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to share with you my 3 passions and how these passions will help you be a conscious and mindful parent, teacher, caregiver of the kids that you know and love. So just a little bit about myself to begin with. My 3 passions are kids, teaching, and yoga. I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher from the moment that I was a little girl. I used to have a little schoolhouse in my bedroom, invite all the neighborhood kids over, and if they weren't available, I would use my stuffed animals as my students. So I knew I wanted that, had that down, loved kids, loved teaching. So yoga did not enter my life until after I had 3 children and in my early 30s. At this time, before I knew yoga, I was training for quite a few triathlons and half marathons, and I was all in. I was busy mom raising these 3 little kids. I was teaching and pouring my energy into the kids, and then the early mornings I was swimming, biking, or running, and always training for something. And I did that for several years, and then I just crashed. My hormones became out of whack. I felt like I wasn't sleeping well, wasn't the best present mom that I could be, and so I thought, okay, well, I'll give this yoga thing a try. And boy, did that change my life. I still love to bike and swim and run, but it's definitely in a more mindful, more aware of my body because of the yoga. So after I went to my first yoga class, I immediately ran home and I told my kids about it, showed them some of the poses I was learning. They loved it. We were laughing in the living room and falling down and having so much fun. And I just knew that I needed to introduce this to kids. I knew that this was something that kids needed. And at this time, this was before yoga for children was even a thing, really even common at all. It's changed a lot over the last couple of years, thank goodness, and that's been very exciting. But at this time, I knew that yoga for kids wasn't really a concept. So what we did was I took what I was doing in school. I took how kids love to be engaged with their learning and game playing, and I tied in yoga poses with that. That is the teacher in me. I have been a teacher now for 20 years, and I still am a teacher, a school teacher. But I knew to introduce this to kids, it would need to be in kid-friendly ways. So from this, I knew that kids need to be engaged in different ways than adults do with yoga. There's no way children are going to go through a 60-minute vinyasa flow of a class. No, it was going to be different. They'd still be learning the yoga poses, but it would be in kid-friendly ways. So I started creating these lesson plans, and that's what led to Go Yoga for Kids and my lesson plan books. And I have published 3 books so far, and they're all different, and they all incorporate how to teach yoga to kids in engaging and mindful and fun and active ways. They include games, activities, lesson plans, poses. So it's been so wonderful to see that all grow, and I'm very thankful to share with you some of the things that I have learned over the years so that you can do this with the kids in your lives. So I get asked a lot, how do kids benefit from yoga? Why do kids need yoga? They don't need yoga. And I love that question because yoga has the same benefits for kids as adults. So if you have ever tried a yoga class yourself and you know that feeling that you have when you're done or when you're in the middle of it, you are present, you are mindful, you are doing the poses, you're feeling it in your body and your mind. Same with kids. Another benefit is that kids they're stressed. I mean, this world today, we know it is just a different world than how many of us grew up, and it's kind of scary out there. Kids need ways that they can calm themselves, and they need ways that they can relieve the stress and this pressure. And we may think, oh, they're fine, but kids are absorbing. They're watching the adults, and they're even inadvertently, they're hearing the news, and they know what's going on. And giving them some breathing exercises or mindfulness tips really just will help the kids be in control of their emotions, and that's what we really want. So another benefit is, along with kids being able to self-control their emotions and be able to handle their stress, is that, I mean, just really the physical benefits. Kids are sedentary, more so today in this world. They are hunched over desks and computers and tablets and phones, and when you go to yoga or you do some yoga poses, it opens your heart, it makes your spine straighter, it helps with balance. It's all these things that are just critical to these young growing bodies that we need as adults, but kids for sure need them as well too. So those are just a few of the benefits. So another question I get asked is, well, what ages can children begin yoga? And that's a good question too, because I think that the people who ask this sometimes are thinking, well, my kid needs to be able to sit through a 60-minute class and they need to be able to be quiet. And kids yoga is so different than that. We are beginning our class, with a welcome and introducing a theme. We are moving into breathing exercises, and these are fun. We're doing ocean breath and balloon breathing. We are breathing like a bunny or like a bear. Any way to introduce it to kids, because if you just say, oh, take a deep breath, well, that's not as much fun as, well, take a big deep balloon breath and breathing in, raising your hands above your chest, and then you're going down like a crazy balloon and you're exhaling on the way out. That's a lot more fun than, oh, just breathe, relax. So we have, in our kids yoga class would look like, when I mentioned, welcoming a gathering time, introducing the theme, you're going to have breathing exercises. You're going to have some type of active movement to get hearts pumping. Kids, like I mentioned before, are sedentary in this way with the heart pumping. They're doing jumping jacks, they're doing animal walks, slithering like a snake, hopping like a kangaroo, whatever's related to the theme, anything to get their heart strong. And then you do move into the yoga poses, and just like with adults, you're learning these poses, but we're not learning, 12 or 20 yoga poses. I usually focus around 4 to 6 yoga poses, and they are related to our theme. If it's a jungle animal, we are doing cobra. If it's a jungle theme, we're doing cobra. If it is an ocean theme, we're learning shark pose. So we're tying the poses in, and that is the teacher and me knowing that if you can tie what they're learning to a theme or something, that the kids are going to remember it more. So they are doing their poses, and then they are practicing with the yoga games, which was the feature of my last book, Go Yoga for Kids, Yoga Games and Activities for Children, with 150 games, because kids love to play through movement. They need to have that. They need to practice working as a team. They need to practice, the teamwork is a big thing. There's challenges. They can take what they're learning but experience it in different ways. Another part of a kids yoga class is they're going to have the stillness and shavasana, just like what we have. And we love that as adults. Guess what? Kids love it even more so. It always shocks me that after you've had this fun, engaging, very active, mindful yoga class, that they are ready for that stillness and shavasana. And they may roll up in their mat like a burrito or a taco, and they may curl up, put their legs up the wall, or curl into a little ball like a bear hibernating. These kids are just loving Shavasana, and it is a lot of fun to see them be able to relax their bodies in that way. So that is just a note on how you can begin yoga with kids, super young. We have classes for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, and they're moving like animals. It's about moving your body in good and healthy ways. Definitely through school age, so important as kids are introduced to all their activities and sports. And then teens and tweens, in my books I talk about how to have a teen class, because that's a difficult age. They're still kids, they love the games, they love all that, but yet they're ready for a little bit more. They're growing in adulthood, and their bodies are changing so much. And yoga gives and helps with so much confidence. So that for sure is something important. So yoga is literally good for all ages. So I want to talk a little bit about some ways that you can implement mindfulness at home, or a yoga practice at home. I don't mean that you need to go through a whole big class to be able to have kids do it. No, you can do yoga and mindfulness in just a few moments at home. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in the car. It doesn't need to be this big 45-minute, hour-long class at all. Don't want you to think that. So one way that you can build mindfulness with your family at home is take a time that you are all together. Something simple, dinner time. Pausing before you eat. Noticing as you're eating slowly, having conversations about how how the food tastes and smells. Also, having everyone share something good about the day, just practice being an active participant in the meal. That is mindfulness. We're not just shoveling the food in our faces. We are not eating in front of a screen or TV. We are actually engaging with one another. We're chewing, we're slowing down, we're aware of what we're putting into our mouths, we're connecting with one another. That is mindfulness. Also, having a simple little routine, yoga routine in the morning or at evening would be great. Doing some sun salutations first thing when you wake up, and putting your arms above your head and diving forward, really waking up every single muscle in your body. I know I do that in the morning. It feels amazing. It just does. It's working your muscles and you're getting ready for the day. On this other hand, having a few poses at night, kind of those more calming poses, going into child's pose would be great. It's just, you can't, with kids, many of you are parents know, you don't just say, all right, go to bed. It's just not like that. Building in that routine, you're brushing your teeth, you are doing some deep breathing exercises, you're doing a few restorative yoga poses. All of those definitely are some good routines to add in at home. All right, so I would love to actually just take a moment here and talk to you about some mindfulness or breathing exercises, some simple ones that you can do with kids. No props needed, they just take a few moments. So one would be the 5-finger breathing. This is fun. I like to tell kids it's kind of like you're on a roller coaster. So you're going to breathe in. As you go up your finger, you're going to breathe out. On the exhale, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And you can see that, and it's kids get this and they connect with it, because I'm going to slow down. There's something about watching their finger as it travels up their hand and back down that really resonates with them, and it does make them mentally be aware of their breath and slowing down. Another one that young kids love is birthday candle breath. I mean, who does not love their birthday if you're a young kid? So for sure, you make a little candle with your fingers just like this, and you're going to breathe in and you let a big exhale. That's a really fun one. You can do that for as old as the child is, that you're really practicing that deep breathing that is so beneficial. One thing about breath is you can always tell your mood, I guess, by looking at your breathing. If you are feeling rushed and anxious, you're going to have kind of those shorter breaths. But I know that if you are actually being calm in the moment, you'll notice how your breathing slows. It slows down. And that is the same for kids as well, too. So those are just a few little breathing exercises that you can do at home that kids find fun. I want to talk about a few yoga poses that are beneficial for kids. So I do have my top 9 favorite kids yoga poses that are perfect for these young growing bodies. These all are based off of our Kids Yoga Challenge postcards that we have here. There are 40 cards in our card deck, and they're all, I'll just talk about these for a minute, they're all based on levels. So I talked about child's pose. This is a very beneficial pose for kids. Very centering, grounding. I would use this a lot at bedtime. I love how it has little mantras with them. I am calm and centered, so that's super fun. That's good. I love moving into cow pose, into cat pose, arching your back. You incorporate that with breathing. You're breathing in, arching your back like a cat, breathing out like cow pose. That's really good for those spines, those growing kids. A few others that I love. I mean, they're all good, but kids love triangle pose. They love this one because it has the shape of a triangle, which they can easily remember. And it just feels good in their body, and you're lengthening and strengthening your side body there. Yeah, any balance kind of ones. Airplane pose is fun to do on one leg, balancing with your arms and your legs. Tree pose is super great. And mix it up with kids, let's count in Spanish to 10, to 10, and see how long we can hold our pose. Let's count down from 10 like we're blasting off. You'll make balance fun. I learned something interesting in all my research with my kids yoga books, and it's kind of alarming actually. When you are 7 years old, and after that, your balance and your flexibility begin to diminish. Now, you think about how that may make sense. You think about older people and they're not as flexible, they're not as balanced, but you don't have to let it be that way by doing just a few yoga poses, by holding tree pose, by just hanging over in ragdoll pose, letting your lower back relax. All those things are building your flexibility. Like I, for one, am more flexible than I was 10 years ago. And it's not because I am doing yoga 24/7. No, I love to get to a practice 1 or 2 times a week, but it's helping my body remember that flexibility. It's helping keeping my muscles fluid with that. And so it's just interesting how I look back on my triathlon days where I was so strong and my endurance was so high, but yet I had like 0 flexibility. I mean, I was at all. I was not doing any kind of stretching, any yoga poses. So balance, flexibility is something that can certainly, it diminishes when you turn 7, but it's something that you can keep in check, and it doesn't have to be something that you lose every single year. All right, back to our yoga poses that I love with kids. Let's see here. So this is fun, and you can do this with brothers and sisters and siblings, cousins. We also have partner poses. So you practice boat pose, and then you can work on double boat for the Kids Yoga Challenge postcards. They love raindrop pose like that. That's a really fun one. So it also includes partner poses as well. So those are just a few poses that are good for those young growing bodies. I would like to close with just a few more thoughts on why I do want you to introduce yoga and mindfulness to kids. As you can tell, it's something I'm very passionate about. I feel very strongly about this with kids, and I even think about with my own. We live in an instant gratification world. You push a button, you get a result. You've got the cell phones, the tablets, the video games. It's just constant. Kids don't really have to ever slow down. They don't ever have to wait. It's just all right there. But yoga does make you slow down, and that's one of the reasons why I love yoga so much. It turns off that monkey mind. I am engaged in what I'm doing. The kids are engaged in what they're doing. You're not looking for that external stimulus. You're being stimulated on your own, for sure. So that is just another reason in this busy technology, social media driven world why it's so important to introduce kids to these kind of mindfulness techniques, for sure. All right. Second to last thing I want to talk about is yoga games. I touched on them briefly, but I know for those of you who do yoga with kids or would like to do yoga with kids as a teacher in a class, or maybe you want to practice this at home, I just want to tell you about a few games that you don't need a lot of supplies or props for. I mean, there's so many games listed in our books, but we'll just talk about a few right now that I'm thinking about. One is musical mats. So it's like musical chairs, but you're using yoga mats or you're using beach towels. The important thing is that everybody has a spot. And I like to lay the poses that we learned. So let's say we learned 6 or we're working on 6. I lay the cards on the top of the mats, turn on some music, have the kids move around the circle, they're having fun. When the music stops, then they must make the pose that is at the top of their mat, right there. So this way, the benefits are huge. They're getting that active movement, they're moving their bodies, they're holding the poses, for plank, their arms are working, their legs are working, every muscle is working in their body, they're holding it, and then you're moving on to the next pose. So that's a fun way to try as well. Also, any kind of breathing exercises, I mentioned those before. You can do a lot of things with little puff balls. I'm thinking about those little colored balls. You can practice blowing them across the room in a puffball race. If you want to play toga, you can, which is yoga for your feet. You can sprinkle the colored pom-pom balls on the floor, and kids must pick them up barefoot and move them over to the mat. That's great for dexterity. That's really good, fun practice. Kids love doing that. It's actually a very mindful activity too, because you need to focus on getting that puffball with your toes and getting it back to your mat, which is a lot harder than it sounds. So those are just a couple of yoga games. One yoga game that I want to give to you as a little gift. Thank you so much for taking the time and for listening and being involved and wanting to learn more about introducing yoga to kids. Don't overthink it. It's just fun, and the kids love it, and it's good for you too. And it's a beautiful thing. So something I want to give you is it's a yoga pose memory game. So if you go to the website www.gogoyogakids.com/memory, you will be able to download the memory game, and oh boy, so we've got several different poses here. You can print it out black or white colored. It comes with directions on how to play the memory game, which is good, and you can lay the poses down and you can turn them over just like you would a normal memory game and practice the poses. So that is a lot of fun. So if you have any questions at all, I would love to hear from you. My email is Sarah, S-A-R-A, at gogoyogakids.com. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram at gogoyogakids. I love being there. I love meeting new people. So definitely say hello and say that you watched and learned something. Maybe tell me one of your favorite things. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.